I'll really be talking about removing the rock by quarrying particularly for the construction of the airfield during the Second World War by the two units that were particularly involved with that, and trying to explain the context in which it took place, and also removing the rock by tunnelling, and again trying to put the tunnelling on Gibraltar in the context of tunnelling by other quarrying companies and tunnelling engineers in World War II. Hopefully, therefore, saying something new rather than trying to tell Gibraltarians stories that they already know in better detail than I know myself.
And I imagine Gibraltar's heritage has given you plenty of content to work with.
Well, yes, because I'll also be giving a perspective as a geologist, and though there is a great tradition of geologists working on Gibraltar that I'll mention at the beginning of my talk, there's still plenty to do, still much to discover, and so I'm just telling a little bit of the story, which will carry on even after I've gone, as other geologists make new observations or make new interpretations.
You've done a lot of work on Gibraltar, including the compilation of a geological map back here in the 90s. So what was that process like?
Well, that really came about because the last map that was actually published was effectively published in 1878. Much had been discovered since then, and there were unpublished maps, as I shall mention in passing tonight, that were produced during the Second World War, but nothing was published. There was an intention to produce a proper map, but the man actually left the army before the work was done. I then had a research student who was jointly supervised by me and by the British Geological Survey, who we intended would generate the map, but he lost a vital notebook and he faded away working for the oil industry, intending to finish his work, but he didn't. So really, as a matter of honour, I felt I ought to finish a map myself, which I did with the help of another academic who was also a military geologist and the Royal School of Military Survey, published the map as an exercise in how to produce a technical map, which they then were able to distribute to Gibraltar as an exercise in how to distribute maps to a client overseas.
So it seems the rock keeps drawing you back. So what is it about Gibraltar that keeps bringing you back here?
Every time I think I have finished one particular story, something else comes up. So I've now produced over 43 years, in fact, contributions to 43 publications. But they're all different. For example, I worked on macrofossils, brachiopods, with a colleague who's a specialist in those. I did another paper on microfossils, foraminifera, with a colleague who's a specialist with those. Or on hydrogeology of the rock, again with a colleague who's a specialist of those. So there's always a different aspect that if you know somebody who's interested in that particular field, you can help him focus his expertise on the rock, and together we generate something new.
So we're talking about the World War II tunnels and Gibraltar's heritage, but what do you make of, for example, the new tunnel that's being built to the airport? It's a new development.
In a way, I was involved in some of the initial discussions of that years ago, and it was a long time ago. So this visit, I've actually been learning a little bit more about it, but I shall be very interested to see if any of the studies that are involved in the construction of that tunnel generate new information on what actually does lie beneath the isthmus area. So be assured, if there is new information, I shall be fascinated. I'm just waiting to see what is discovered.